Continuing now our conversation with the Vice President of Foreign Policy and National Security at Heritage Foundation, Jim J. Carafano, fresh back from a trip in Ukraine. And where last we left, Jim, we were talking about the morality of this fight. So you basically know America doesn't necessarily have a moral obligation to Ukraine, but there is a moral good and bad in this battle.
You know, like I said, you know, we are not the world's policemen, we are not the world's firemen, we are not the world's babysitter. We don't have a global responsibility to anybody, and actually we help everybody in the world best by looking after America and their interests first.
Yeah.
But here's the moral dimension there, and this is not to bejudge anybody on any side of this debate who has any different ideas on how to help the Ukrainians, and we can debate that, and that's fine. I went to Bucha, which was the site of a mass grave, the day we left Ukraine, literally moments after we walked out of the office of talking with President Zelensky. We had a long meeting with him. They announced they'd found an even bigger mass grave. Families roped together and murdered and thrown in a pit and tortured. And just here's my thought on that. Putin is a global actor. The thought that we would be unconcerned about this guy being unleashed on the world and being a murderer, a war criminal, like literally having unrestrained appetites, Adolf Hitler without the Nazi bandana, that Americans would watch and let this guy run wild in the world and not think that someday that this person wouldn't be coming after us, that's just nuts. Yeah. So if you, he is clearly, that, to use a layman's term, the bad guy in this situation. Yeah, he is the clear aggressor. Right. He invaded a sovereign nation. Right.
Here's my disconnect, and this is and again,
right.
I'm asking questions because I want to know how this ends. I hear from people who are incredibly committed to the Ukraine cause that the only way this resolves in a peaceful way is full unconditional surrender and withdrawal. The man you just described, Vladimir Putin, it doesn't sound like that's in his nature. Is there a negotiated peace somewhere in here?
Well, I think there will be a Ukraine. I think it's physically impossible. Even if he dropped a tactical nuclear weapon, which I didn't think in the end, he would be worse off than when he started if he did that. I just don't see how they have the military capacity to conquer Ukraine. I just don't see that. Okay. So there's going to be a free and independent Ukraine. I don't see a path to negotiated settlement. I don't know how you get there. He is never going to give up the Crimea, the most important strategic. The Ukrainians are never going to acknowledge the Russians keeping Russian territory. I don't see how this doesn't end up as some kind of frozen conflict. How do we keep peace going forward? And more importantly, how do we have a Ukraine that's a net value added for us and our interests in peace and stability? We have to have a Ukraine that can defend itself. It's going to continue to need military aid to do that. That's just a fact. And they're never going to be let into NATO in anytime soon. Nobody's ever going to give them a security guarantee that works. Basically, we're going to have to help them build the capacity to defend themselves. Now, over time, they can do that themselves. They actually had a very robust defense industry. They can actually rebuild all that. But then they're going to have to rebuild the country so they have an economy and good governance. And to do that, we cannot do traditional foreign aid of writing big checks, just throwing money at them. That's just nuts and stupid. So, and the people hear a Marshall Plan and all this other nonsense. It's no. We need to get, money can't go to the oligarchs. It can't go to all the big NGOs that just are there to just make money. We should invest and partner in the country. We should not be dumping money in there thinking we're going to rebuild a nation. If we do that, it doesn't matter what the Russians do. Maybe they'll collapse. Maybe in 5 years or 6 years, Vladimir Putin will build his military economy and get the sanctions and everything else. If we have a Ukraine that can defend itself and a Ukraine that's focused on rebuilding, if this is America in 1777 as opposed to Afghanistan in 2020, we will be better off. And so we need to keep our eye on the wall. My number one worry here is that the Ukrainians could win a war and lose the peace. So the reconstruction piece has got to be done right.
Yeah, and is real fast in this less than a minute. Is America the right country to lead that reconstruction effort, or is it more of a coalition of Western nations? Because there are suspicions about our industries and corporations being having a vested interest in.
Look, it's the Biden administration. They're a bunch of yahoos. They have no frickin' idea what they're doing, and the notion that somehow they can lead a rebuilding effort is just comical. So, somebody's got to come to the rescue. We need congressional leaders that push them. We need other countries to step up and say, let's do things that are not stupid. But we cannot just do traditional foreign aid. It just won't work.
Jim J. Carafano, an ongoing conversation. I appreciate you joining it today. That's it for O'Connor Tonight. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, and in the meantime, we'll see you on the radio.